Hi, everyone, and welcome to Microsoft Releases, the latest enhancements to business applications you use every day. This is the last webinar of our Client Focus series, and we're happy you're here to join us for the next half hour. My name is Brooke Kennedy. I'm the Marketing Development Analyst for Arctic IT, and presenting for us today is Sarah Jelinek. Sarah is Arctic IT's technology evangelist and is here today to share her wealth of knowledge of Microsoft applications. So for some quick housekeeping, we are recording the presentation for you, and we will send that link to you when it becomes available. And during the presentation, if you have questions, you can use that questions or chat box, and we will be sure to address those at the end of the call. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Sarah.
Thank you, Brooke. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, greetings wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. As Brooke mentioned, my name is Sarah Jelinek. I'm a technology evangelist here at Arctic IT. I am a happy user of pretty much all things Microsoft. I'm a Microsoft MVP, which stands for Most Valuable Professional, focused in the business applications area. Most valuable professionals are recognized for their involvement in the community, for their expertise and the evangelism of their products. And I love, again, most everything Microsoft. So today we're going to be focusing on some of the functionality that regular releases that Microsoft provides you how it can benefit your organization and how you utilize the systems every day. My area of focus is business applications like Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform, and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer in those areas. But you can't use a lot of the products that we have with business applications like Dynamics without using some of our core applications, such as Office, like Word, Outlook, PowerPoint. So we're going to be talking really about the Microsoft 365 stack and how we have access to those applications to help us do our day-to-day tasks, setting up meetings and communicating in Outlook, documenting letters, memos, reports within Microsoft Word, delivering presentations in PowerPoint, analyzing data in Excel. We tend to utilize these applications every day. So I want to talk about how looking at the releases that Microsoft provides, how you can ensure you get the latest and greatest and get the best performance out of your application. So in today's agenda, we'll talk about how often Microsoft releases information, releases new features and updates, and what's included in those releases. And then we're going to start talking about some of my favorite things with these Microsoft releases as well. So hopefully you'll be able to take something back with you outside of this webinar that will hopefully make your life a little bit easier as you're working with these applications. So let's jump right into the topic of our release cadence. So why are releases important? This one's talking about Microsoft 365, but pretty much all areas of any Microsoft application, they're going to have a release plan. And that's because they were actively looking at usage of how people are working with their programs, how they're utilizing it, what roadblocks they may encounter, what functionality they need, and they're constantly evolving their solutions to meet the needs of consumers as well as end users. So when you're talking about releases with Microsoft, there's a couple of things that are going to be included. Of course, the fun things that we love are the new and updated features. When something new comes out, like being able to include an editor within Word to make your life a little bit easier, to be able to integrate with other systems, to make your performance a little bit faster. We love those new features that they add. These features, of course, like everything else, is released on a regular basis. And depending upon what kind of release cadence you're on or release channel you're on, it depends on how frequently you get those. Now, you don't only just get the new and updated features, you also get security updates. Microsoft is very conscious about securing their data, securing information, securing your information. And if there's something that can cause a potential vulnerability, or if it's not vulnerable yet, they want to make sure it stays that way, they release security updates as well. This is really important if you are in like a government community cloud, utilizing applications there, that you want to have an even higher level of security. But also included in our updates are what they call non-security updates, fixes for known issues. When we take a look at the updates and the cadence and schedules that we have for the different channels, you'll see if you look at release notes, there's a lot of non-security updates, and that's fixes. So this might be something Someone's identified as, I was trying to use this application, it's not quite working the way it is, I get an error message, or maybe it shuts down unexpectedly. When those issues get reported to Microsoft, they want to make sure that they are trying to resolve those as well. So they try to provide those updates that eliminate those situations. And most importantly, to continue to have that great experience, they also include stability and performance improvements. As our technology gets faster, as we tend to work faster, so should our applications keep up with us. So keeping on a regular release schedule is going to be helpful for you to utilize the best features of your Microsoft applications. So in this table, just got an idea of the update channels that are available for Microsoft 365 apps. And these are apps, as I mentioned, like Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, a lot of the applications that you use day to day. Depending upon the update channel that you choose, you could have a choice between current, monthly enterprise channel, or semi-annual enterprise channel. Now, this is something that your administrator would help set up, but it allows you to control how often your applications update. Of course, Microsoft would love for everyone to be on the current channel, that you receive these new features as soon as they release. But for some organizations, you want to control that, perhaps include some capability for testing if you need to, or you don't want to have so many updates running all the time. So you can choose these different time points based on your channel that you're on. With your release frequency, Microsoft tries to release updates every month if they can, and sometimes they may release more often depending upon the need or the feature or the security update that needs to get included. For monthly and enterprise, you'll see there's a common theme here that updates occur once a month on the second Tuesday of the month, and that way you know what to expect. So if you're working a help desk, you may expect a few more calls, or people just really excited about learning some of these new features. It just gives you a set schedule of knowing when these updates are going to occur. So whatever your organization plans, it's helpful to keep these updates coming to make sure that your application is operating at the best capability it can. So with that, let's actually get into some of the fun things about these releases that we get from Microsoft. Now, one of the things I want to talk about first of all, that this has been available for us in Microsoft Office for a little while, but I want to talk about how Microsoft continues to improve this and provide updates. And it's the feature that I call Save Your Eyes. Now, this is my term. It's not an official Microsoft term, but it's giving you the ability to help utilize your system and, of course, stay healthy at the same time. A lot of us are now working remotely. We're sitting in front of our computer screens for 8, 9, 10 hours a day and looking at a screen that maybe has some really bright lights, really light backgrounds, and can eventually just play a little bit of havoc on our eyes. So to help reduce some of your eye strain, if you encounter this like myself, you can utilize Office themes to help make that experience a little bit easier for you. When you choose an Office theme, you get a selectable color scheme. So how do I want the title bar to appear? How do I want my navigation bars and my ribbons across the top to appear? What color scheme would I like for that? When you choose this, it applies to the entire Office program. So a color scheme I choose in Outlook is going to apply to Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and so forth. Now your options for changing your color scheme are listed here. Now the screenshot that you'll see is actually using the black color scheme that I prefer when I'm working within the system. But you have the capability to switch this as often as you want to. It's a personal setting, so it sets it for yourself and you don't have to worry about affecting other users. Let's take a look at how this works within Office. Now I've got my Microsoft Outlook open here, and it's using the default color scheme of colorful. So I've got the nice blue title bar at the top, very bright background here, able to see everything pretty clearly. It's not such a dark black font that we're seeing here that's really contrasting. It's kind of a lighter gray. It's pleasant to look at. But if you look at this a lot, again, it's that bright screen that can potentially affect your eyes. Now, if you go to your File tab and you navigate over to the Options, which in my case is in the lower left corner of the screen, you'll bring up your Outlook options. Now, this setting for color scheme is available in Outlook, in Word, PowerPoint, Excel, it's in the same place under your options, and it's under the General tab. So right now my office theme is going to be colorful. I'm going to choose dark gray just to see what this looks like. Once I click OK, I can now see I got a dark gray background. It's not as bright. I can still see information. The first time you turn these on, they'll take a little bit of getting used to. I recommend that you try to go to a little bit of a darker scheme and then try to continue to progress. I prefer the black background, which is quite prominent. When you see this, I'll choose this option to never change my message color and show you what this looks like. So I'm gonna click OK. You can see it's very dark. And now my text is white when I'm looking at it. When I compose an email message, the title bar, the ribbon, the fields where I'm providing my CC and BCC, they're all colored in that dark background, but my message body, or the body of my message, is still white. So I can still see what it looks like on a normal screen. But you can always change this and continue to gradually work your way to something that's a little bit more pleasing to your eye. I'm sure you notice a lot of applications now, a lot of phones, a lot of different tools, different technology that you're using. An interface like this provides that capability for you to switch to a darker mode. So it's, again, a little bit easier for you when you're viewing information. I can choose not to have my message background be white. It could be black, and just makes this a little bit easier for me to view. So notice that when I changed it for Outlook, if I go to Microsoft Word, I see the same thing here. Again, the dark background. My canvas for the Word document is still white, but it's just a gradual improvement to make it so it's a little bit easier to look at your screen for so long. Now, since I'm in Outlook, and as I mentioned, I spend a lot of time in front of my computer, I also want to take into consideration of working remotely, how much time we do spend on our computer and potentially in meetings. So one of the other tips I want to talk about that is available in Microsoft Outlook is the ability to give people some breaks. So if you are like me, I'm in back-to-back meetings sometimes, and it is a little bit of a challenge when you need to get up and just get a glass of water. You need to be able to have a break to just kind of jump from one meeting to the next. And you kind of wish that you just had a little bit of time between those meetings. Well, there's a feature in Microsoft Outlook that will allow you to shorten your meetings and appointments by default. This is really great if you're a person that schedules a lot of meetings. If you're not, if you're on the receiving side, please feel free to take this tip to the individuals that schedule meetings for you, because you can have them set up, and you can of course set this up yourself, to set your meetings to either end early or start late. I have a friend that always shows up to meetings 3 minutes late. So when I schedule things, perhaps I want to have it start 5 minutes late. Or to give people that time to switch between those meetings, take a breather, I can choose to end it early. And the great thing is you have options for meetings that are less than an hour or 1 hour or longer. Let's take a look at how we can configure this in Outlook. We're going to go back to our options menu. So under the File tab, we'll go to Options. And in our calendar within Outlook, I'll click on the calendar control over here. We're going to see a section under our calendar options to shorten our appointments and meetings. Now with this, you do have the option to not shorten your appointments or meetings. You can leave that at none, or you can end it early or start late. For my meetings that are less than an hour, maybe they're 45 minutes or 30 minutes in duration, I want to tell Outlook to shorten that by 5 minutes. For meetings at an hour or longer, I can shorten it by 10 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever works for you. Now, the great thing about this is this will be in effect going forward. So if I click OK, and now I go to create a new appointment, all right, my next time slot would be 12:30 Central. You'll see that my end time is now 12:55. So when I send this meeting request to somebody or or create this appointment, I'm going to accommodate for that extra 5 minutes. We here at Arctic IT have actually deployed this setting to our entire organization to ensure that people have that break between meetings and can make it a little bit more helpful for when you're having to switch from topic to topic. So when I want to change this to an hour-long meeting, I can change my duration, and you'll see that I have the capability to say 1 hour and 20 minutes, which is about 1 hour, or excuse me, end at 1:20, apologies, or I can end it exactly at an hour. You can always adjust it to exactly the duration that you want to without any issues. It's just helpful that it gives you that suggestion right away. So when we're working within Outlook and we're scheduling our meetings, we also want to make sure that we're communicating with people appropriately through Outlook, through email messages that we have, or for going through and using tools like Microsoft Word to write letters or reports or information to people that we are working with. We want to ensure that we're sending correct information. I have this problem quite a bit when I'm using Microsoft Word or Outlook or PowerPoint. I'm sometimes in a rush and I quickly, frantically type information. And this first question happens to me. Do you find your mistakes too late? Absolutely. I come back and I see that some of my information is incorrect. I wish I could change it before I had sent it. If there was only a way I could do that, right? We've got our spell check and grammar check in Word that helps us with that. Sometimes as I read a phrase, I think, oh, was there a better way to write that? Am I being too informal? Am I being too formal? Am I missing punctuation? There's always that great debate on the Oxford comma. Do you use that comma before the and in your list? We'll take a look at an example. And then sometimes am I using words like a homophone correctly? So homophone being a word that sounds the same, but has different spellings and different uses, like here as in this location, or here as in I'm listening. So if we had the ability to find that information and alert us to that before we actually send out our document or send out that email or present that PowerPoint, would be really helpful for us to see that. So I'm going to talk about a feature in Microsoft 365 that's available to us in our Office applications called the editor. So let's take a look at a Word document that I have created. And I've got a couple of different lines here. Now, I wouldn't write something like this and share it, but I wanted to give you a couple of examples of how this tool can help you. Now, the editor is available in Outlook, PowerPoint, Excel, Word. It's also an extension that you could download for the Edge browser so that when you're writing stuff on a web page or entering information, you can utilize the editor there as well to check your spelling, to check your grammar, and to check even more. So in this example, we'll show you, obviously you see some of these lines look familiar, like the squiggly line for potential spelling mistake. There might be a grammar mistake as well, but let's show you how Editor takes it to the next level and makes your writing that much better. Now with my document, I see these items that are here. I wonder what the editor has picked up. So you'll see the command available on your Home tab within Word within the Microsoft 365 app. I can see the editor is available here. Editor is also available on our Review tab. This actually changed the spelling and grammar button. It replaced it. So if you are like me and remember the keyboard shortcut F7 or function 7 to launch your spell and grammar check, it's going to do the same thing. Now, when I click the editor, it's going to bring up a pane on the right-hand side of Word, and I can use this to look up my document. So as I'm typing information, the editor is looking at what I'm typing, and it's using technology to determine, based on what I've typed, is there clarity? Is it concise? Is it not formal? Is it informal? Am I using my appropriate punctuation conventions? And of course, our basic spelling and grammar check. So I can open this editor pane and I can click on a component like spelling, and it will highlight the phrase or word that it found and wants to draw to my attention. So in this case, I can see I typed the word what twice, and it's telling me why it flagged this. It's not just that, it seems odd, but it's a repeated word. I can choose to ignore it or delete it. So I can fix that right there. Now for grammar, here's an example of where I've used that homophone of there and here. So it's going to say, you maybe want to double check if a possessive is needed here. And it might be giving me another suggestion. So I realize we will go there. Maybe their suggestion isn't appropriate here, but I can change this just by highlighting my word and type the appropriate there. And you can see that now it's no longer picking that up. I can hit my back arrow and I can continue to look at my suggestions. Now, if you don't want to open up the editor, you can also right click on the phrase or the highlighted or underlined phrase, and it will tell you that if you're doing formal writing, try spelling out the words. So do not, as an example, same thing here for my formality as part of my grammar. Now, there's also some other refinements that you can include. Clarity. So if I click on clarity, you'll see I've got a line here. We want to quickly and efficiently finish this task. It's going to give me a better suggestion. We want to finish this task quickly and efficiently. That sounds much better. It's much clearer. I'll just select that suggestion. For conciseness, we will mainly focus. Does that mean when we're going to partially focus? No, I want to focus. So here we can lessen that uncertainty to really get that impact in my messaging. We talked about formality. There's some different options that you can choose here. Here's a great example of that punctuation with the Oxford comma. So I can see that here it's saying, well, you probably want to include the comma before the and or to make it clearer. So I can make that correction. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, which it looks like I have. There's some more options that you can choose within settings. So when I click on settings, this brings my favorite word, the options dialog. And in your writing style, when you're looking for grammar and refinements, you can choose your settings. So for example, for grammar, I can choose as much as I want to here, what I want them to look for. There's options for your clarity, for your conciseness, formality. I really want to see what options are available to me, so I select everything. I want the Oxford comma, make sure I'm using that. I unchecked unnecessary comma. If I'm working on a resume, there's tips here for vocabulary. And there's also options for inclusiveness, which I've included as well. So we have the capability to make sure we're looking at our document and being able to review it. So this editor is really helpful. I hope you take a chance to use it. All right, so let's talk about another tip that we have when we're working within presentations like this. When you're working with PowerPoints. So I want to talk about a feature that I love, and it's called Zoom in PowerPoint. I could probably spend a half hour going through all these examples, but again, we thank you so much for your time. I want to make sure we're using it to the best of your advantage here. So Zoom in PowerPoint will allow you to jump to and from slides and sections while presenting. For example, you may have a massive PowerPoint that includes a lot of content that you've created over time, and that's got some great information that you want to share. But when you have to present at different durations, different groups, some of that content may not be applicable. So instead of creating multiple versions of that PowerPoint, you can keep that single version and then utilize Zoom to control where you want to go to in the presentation. So summary Zoom, for example, this is the screenshot that we can see here, will allow us to provide a landing page. So I can choose which slide I want to go to. So if I want to skip some information or I realize time is running short, I can jump to another topic quickly. Slide Zoom will allow you to provide navigation between slides in any order that we choose. So perhaps I'm on a slide for my agenda, and I want to click on something that's going to take me to another section or skip to a bunch of slides. Section Zoom will link to a section already in your presentation. So if you have something that is for internal resources only, and then maybe something that's for external, perhaps you skip the information that's for internal and go right to external. But these are just some examples that you can use. Now I'm going to go to the PowerPoint I'm actually using for this presentation and show you how this functionality works. So I'm going to click on our agenda here. This looks like a good spot. I'm going to click on my Insert tab, and you'll see that there's a Zoom command here. And as always, one of my favorite tips, if you're not quite sure what a command does, just hover over it, and it will tell you what that functionality does. And of course, you can always learn more. So here are our options for our Zoom, and I'm going to choose Summary Zoom. So I'm going to organize my presentation into sections, and then I can choose which areas I want to go to. So it brings up my insert summary. Which slides do I want to include in this, or which sections? I'm going to choose some of my demos that I've been doing. We talk about Save Your Eyes, Breaks in Outlook, Word, and then of course PowerPoint. And when I choose these, I can hit Insert. And now I'm going to have a summary section that I have here with my slides. And I'll click OK. And now I can see this information. So if I were to exit my PowerPoint here, let me end my slideshow. And I'm going to start right from my summary section. I'll start our PowerPoint again. I can actually show this information and say, well, let's now talk about breaks in Outlook. I'll click on that slide. It zooms into the slide so I can talk about that content. And then I can click it one more time, and it will take me back to that summary slide and say, well, let's go back to how we talked about saving your eyes. It's just a great way for you to be able to give an idea to people of what you're talking about, and then to be able to jump and go to those areas accordingly. And then, of course, you can continue to work through these and choose the appropriate slides that you want to. All right, so let's get back to it. So Zoom is a really great feature for you to utilize in Microsoft PowerPoint. Provides you the capability to really customize that presentation for the audience without having to make a lot of changes or change functionality. Now, with that, I know we were scheduled for a half hour today, but because I was talking about giving people breaks between meetings, I wanted to end it a little bit early. So if you had time to get ready for your next meeting, or more importantly, if you have time for questions, I want to give you that opportunity to ask now. So feel free to use the chat tool, as Brooke mentioned, to put your questions there, and I'll be happy to answer anything for you that you have.
Thank you, Sarah. It looks like we have one question so far.
Excellent.
Is there a feature that is in preview that you are looking forward to seeing in Microsoft 365?
That's a great question. So as you can see, I'm a big fan of the dark mode when I'm looking at my Office color schemes. And this is a feature that I think is great. You'll notice that when I was working with Word, this feature I think is in preview for Office Insiders right now, is that everything is in that kind of that darker mode except for this bright canvas. There is a feature coming out that's in preview right now that will actually make this in the dark mode as well. So it's not so bright and contrasting in my screen. And then I have the capability to toggle that on and off to be able to see what would it look like when I print it out, and then what does it look like just in that dark mode, so it's a little bit easier on your eyes. So this is a feature I'm really excited to see within Microsoft Word that's coming out. And of course, they continue to release new things that surprise us every day.
Thank you, Sarah. And then I have one other question is there a way we can find a list of enhancements on previous releases?
Yes, that's a great question. So I will get that link to it there. So there's a link through Microsoft has a website called docs.microsoft.com, and they talk about releases. So not only the new features that are included and when they were included and what version they're in, but they also include the updates or features. So what we'll do is, for those of you who have attended and those of you who are watching, we'll share that link to that document with you on their website so you can view that. Mark it as a favorite so you can see what's coming out in those features.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Sarah. And do you know when the reporter presentation mode in Teams is going to be available?
The reporter, sorry, could you repeat that question?
Yes. Do you know when the reporter presentation, I think that's the mode where on the presentation where someone's like, where the main presenter is showing up over top of the presentation
Oh,
in Teams?
yeah, I don't know. I'd have to double check on that because I know that's a feature that people are really excited to see. So let me check on that, and we'll get an answer included as part of this this link to the release notes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And thank you everyone for your time. We hope that this was helpful for you. If you've got any other ideas or content that you're interested in learning more about, feel free to share that with us at connect@arcticit.com. We appreciate your time today and hope you have a great rest of your day and week.